Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, today officially is going to be dedicated to laughing at the enemy. Anything else, notes and whatnot that I have that don't quite comport with that, to the side bin it goes. So I want to start with the Bears, not because I'm, just a Bears hater or whatever. I mean, in that case, I would save the best for last. But because I just kind of came across something, and since it's at the forefront of my mind, and I've got this sitting here in front of me, we're going to go that route. So here's how this is going to essentially go. There's the pre-trade sentiment and the post-trade sentiment. So first off, I'm going to go through a couple of the pre-trade things for the Chicago Bears. Now, this is Eric Edholm over at NFL.com. I don't know what his allegiances are, but for all intents and purposes, he's not a Bears fan, so this is not necessarily a Bears fan take. However, it's still generally... they're showing highlights of Micah Parsons, and I just can't handle this. We're not talking about that today. We're not hyping up Micah Parsons today, not necessarily, maybe a little bit. The point is, I'm curious how absurd and ridiculous it would be compared to after the fact. Here is what Mr. Eric Edholm said about the Chicago Bears. By the way, he listed 7 teams in his article titled Micah Parsons Landing Spots, which teams could pursue Cowboy star after trade request. The only NFC North team on this list is the Chicago Bears. Here's what he had to say. The previous Bears front office made a bold preseason trade for a then 27-year-old Khalil Mack and a 2020 second-round pick for 2 firsts, a third, blah, 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 blah. Ended up being a bargain for the Bears. The price tag for Parsons certainly would match and very likely exceed the Mack deal. So much here. First of all, mentions that he's 27. That's a year older. His age is going to be a factor, by the way, as we talk about a few things. Number 2, it ended up being a bargain for the Bears. Really interesting, because all I keep hearing on social media when Packers fans talk about Micah Parsons, especially from Bears fans, is, yeah, how'd that work out for the Bears? Pretty good, I'd say. And it seems the general sentiment prior to was worked out pretty well. The price tag for Parsons would certainly match and very likely exceed the Mack deal. For anyone out there thinking that this is some kind of a fleecing in the other direction in which the Packers lost and overpaid, etc., the Packers massively underpaid. Ryan Poles has settled into his role in this offseason, might have been his finest hour. Oh, tell me about it. All those old washed-up bums. Somehow, landing Parsons would make it a grand slam. The Bears could scrounge together the draft picks if they wanted, crippled as it might be. Finding the money to pay Parsons while planning for a possible Caleb Williams extension down the road will be the tougher part. Parsons, opposite Montez Sweat, with all the Bears' other defensive line talent, would be a problem for offenses. Along with some quality back 7 players, it might be Chicago's best defense since at least 2018, even if it's more of a pipe dream. Okay, fair enough. So it at least to Eric Edholm didn't seem super crazy and made sense for a lot of reasons. Dave BFR on X, senior NFL writer for SM, covering the Chicago Bears, co-host of BFR Pod, he's got 54,000 followers, said, Bears should trade for Micah Parsons. Now, to be fair, there is a decent amount of detraction from Bears fans. I think it's not very well thought out, and we'll get to some of those comments that were made. But until then, continuing. R.A. Green 2019 says, right now, all caps, 3 exclamation points. I'm down. Brandon says, do it. Montez looking washed already, which is hilarious for a couple reasons. John says, bingo, no pass rush. I love that this is becoming a thing because post-trade, everybody wants to talk about how, well, we already got pass rush, so it doesn't really matter. They should do something. The defense is terrible like usual. No pressure whatsoever. At this point, him or Hendrickson, you have to find a pass rusher, and no one currently on the roster is it. The Mack trade wasn't bad because of the capital you gave up. It didn't work because Mitch was not the guy. That's 100,000% correct. Caleb has way more potential. That's not as much correct. Actually, it is, but I feel like being a jerk. Pull the trigger. This pass rush is pathetic. By the way, some of these comments seem a little weird. I believe this comment happened during the Bears-Chiefs preseason game. It took me a minute to figure out what the heck was going on. They kept talking about the Chiefs. We've been asking all offseason for edge. Jim says, no crap, Dave. Didn't quite say crap. Big Red Dog says Packers already got him in the bag. Well done. No, he's a follower. Thanks, Clifford the Big Red Dog. I'll follow you back, and I'm going to retweet that because that was well done. Well done, sir. Absolutely. I wonder if we can give Caleb straight up. Bears fan on August 27th, can the Bears trade for Micah Parsons already? Bears Hype Man says if we can bully Cracker Barrel to go back to the original logo, we can bully Jerry Jones to trade Micah Parsons to the Chicago Bears. Canuck Boy, Bears fan, says Micah Parsons trade I think both would make. Chicago sends DJ Moore, Austin Booker, Ryan Bates, first-round pick in 2026 and a 2027 second-round pick. So funny how fans think they can just cram a bunch of bullcrap players that even they don't want into a trade. It's like fantasy football all over again. Here's 4 garbage bench players that nobody would ever want. Give me the best player in the entire NFL. Dallas sends Micah Parsons and a 4th-round pick back. Oh, yeah, of course. Ridiculous trade offer. But again, they seem to want him. Reddit thread, Ian Rappaport says the Cowboys trade Parsons. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. Details. Bagent for Parsons. If we trade our next 2 firsts for him, and since they both be pick 32, it seems like a deal. Do it. I don't care anymore. We're not a piece away, but dude is 26 and dominant. This isn't Trey Hendrickson we're talking about. What else are rookie quarterback contracts for besides paying other studs? Below that, this is the time to do it. If Caleb is elite, our window's 10 years. If Caleb is him, we are absolutely a piece away. I think we're entering gotta assume Caleb is him territory. If Caleb is him, that probably makes pass rush our weakest premium component. So with that rationale, I definitely do it. I don't know how possible it is, though. Another guy said, Mac trade allowed us to go to the playoffs 2 of 3 straight years in spite of a horrible offense. If we believe in Ben Johnson and Caleb, trading for Parsons is literally a no-brainer, etc., etc., etc. It is funny because when it was more speculation, Bears fans are like, I don't even care. I don't really want him. Once it started to become more real, suddenly it was, I kind of want him. Micah Parsons posted on social media he wants to be traded from the Dallas Cowboys. This is again Reddit. My family all support the Cowboys. I know it won't happen, but you don't understand how happy I would be if we somehow made it happen. Same, my in-law are all Cowboys fans. If he were to come to Chicago, I would be ecstatic. I know Micah has mentioned the Bears in a positive light before in the past, but that obviously doesn't truly mean much. That being said, you can't argue that this would be the move that makes people turn their attention to us this coming season. Not sure what the price would be, or if we can even afford it, but to make a trade like this while Caleb is on his rookie deal would be absolutely perfect. Number 1 Drew Dahlman fan posted a meme of Ryan Poles, and it says, get ready to learn Portillo's, buddy. In other words, he's talking to Micah Parsons. Portillo's Chicago hot dog restaurant. Then there's this comment, which I think is honestly the absolute truth. And I think it's, again, kind of the Green Bay Packers philosophy, despite some people not wanting to believe it. It feels like literally every other team has no problem paying blue chip players and dealing with the cap. But people on this sub are gun-shy about a 26-year-old Hall of Fame edge. Gimme an effing break. If you can make the trade, make the trade. That is correct. The age and talent level make it so that it doesn't matter. You do it if you can do it. I'm tired of being conservative. If you believe in Ben Johnson and Caleb, and you have Caleb on a rookie deal, be aggressive and contend for the next few years. There's no guarantee our draft picks will hit anyways. Contracts can be restructured and moved around. Get it done, Ryan. Best time to be aggressive is with your great quarterback on a rookie deal. Okay. So there's the general sentiment. There is some sentiment of, and let me just play this because this is generally, if there was any detraction by Bears fans, it was a little bit of what about Khalil, which was kind of stupid. But here is Courtney Cronin, Chicago Bears beat writer, talking about this situation.
Hindsight 2020. Now we know what it takes.
And by the way, this is I'm pretty sure after the fact.
Now we know what it did take to get
Yeah.
Micah Parsons. Could you have seen the Bears, Ryan Poles, getting on the phone today and saying, here is X, Y, and Z that we could potentially go get Micah Parsons?
I've been a firm believer that this team in Chicago is not a Micah Parsons away right now from getting to the Super Bowl. The Green
Okay. I have to interject here, okay? Here's the entire problem with this philosophy. And I can't necessarily say Cronin is in the cope category here. It's possible she was one of the Bears fans who was saying this prior to, but it's a completely flawed way to think. The Bears are not a Micah Parsons player away right now. First of all, again, that assumes that this move to get Ben Johnson here to turn Caleb into a great quarterback, that is not going to work. It's essentially what you're admitting. And I don't think you believe that. So I think this is a little bit of cope there. The bigger issue, though, who gives a crap if the Bears are not a player away today? Who cares about today? Do you understand that Micah Parsons might play until he's, let's say, 32 years old? And this will be his year 26. He just turned 26. So we got 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. That's 7 years. She goes on to talk about the Packers, and I'll address that specifically because that's also stupid. But do you believe that essentially the Caleb experiment is just not going to work, period? Because if Caleb is going to become the guy this year, next year, the year after, or even the year after that, this is a good decision. Well, this isn't the year this year. And by the way, this is why fans and the media tend to be so stupid about free agency and trades and all this kind of stuff, because they can only see this year. That's it. They cannot see the future. It's impossible. It's why everyone gets mad at the Packers, because they won't go out and get a 34-year-old broke-down guy that was good 40 years ago. Okay, but that's going to hurt us in the future. I don't want to hear about the future anymore. Future. Okay, it's about now and the future. Micah Parsons makes the Bears better and scary this year. Okay? The Packers were close in both games. Even if we say that Week 18 game was a fluke, which it was, and I think if it was a Week 14 game, the Packers win that game. But both games were close. So even if I'm sitting here saying, oh, the Bears are not that good, and they're not going to do anything, and I don't believe in Caleb, if they go out and get Micah Parsons, I have no reason to feel confident in our ability to sweep the Bears this year. And that's still assuming they're not quite good enough to be a playoff team, which if you take what they were last year and then add Micah Parsons, it might be good enough to get them to limp into the playoffs. Just based on that, even if they're not Super Bowl contenders. But what about next year? Do you believe that Caleb and Ben Johnson and this whole thing is going to work by next year? If so, if you're sitting here saying, therefore, they shouldn't have got it done because it doesn't make us win the Super Bowl this year, so screw 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, 2032, and 2033. Those years don't matter because we can't win a Super Bowl this year, maybe, and that only assumes everybody still sucks. That is brain-dead reasoning.
Green Bay Packers are, and as David pointed out, they're going all in. They better win a Super Bowl in 2026 or 2027.
False.
We knew about the job security questions for Brian Gutekunst and for Matt LaFleur going into this season. If you don't win with this guy, then all bets are off. But for the
okay, and I think a lot of Packer fans probably agree with that. Can I just tell you, for the 1,000th time, that is really stupid? Can I can't express to you how stupid that is. Why do the Packers have to win it now? Why? Can anyone explain that? Well, because they got Micah. So what? Why do they have to win? Explain it to me. Why? Because otherwise it wasn't a good move? That's not true. Does Micah make you a better team? Is it a good process decision? Again, you make decisions based on process, not results. Because results are fluky. There are no guarantees about results. But let's go through this for a second, shall we? The Buffalo Bills, should they fire Sean McDermott? They've had an elite quarterback for what, like 5 years now? Nothing. Along with a bunch of other top-tier players. 0 Super Bowls. Why is he not fired? And why is everybody not calling for them to be fired? Why do I have to keep hearing about how good of a coach Sean McDermott is? And how great of a GM Brandon Beane is? I thought if you had elite players and you don't win a Super Bowl, you're a piece of crap and should be fired. And you only get 2 to 3 years to prove that. They've had more than that, and they've not gotten it done. The Miami Dolphins made a move for Tyreek Hill. Fire everybody because it didn't work. The Jets, for Aaron Rodgers, you probably should fire, and they did fire everybody. But even that is kind of funny because it wasn't the coach's fault. The coach probably should not have gotten fired. The coach was doing a good job, but they fired him because they're stupid, and that's what stupid teams do. The Texans, C.J. Stroud, right? I mean, you went out and got a guy. You drafted him. He's an elite quarterback. I mean, at some point, we got to start looking at this team and say, if you can't get it done, then we need to get somebody else in here, and you should be fired. So DeMeco Ryans, maybe we'll give him one more year to prove that he can actually win with C.J. Stroud. Otherwise, he's got to be fired. And Caserio, who I believe drafted him, he's got to go too. Even though you did your job and you found the guy and you did all that, the only thing that matters is Super Bowls. And even though it's not your fault that we didn't win a Super Bowl, you're still going to get fired for not winning a Super Bowl. The Ravens and Lamar, fire them all, right? Fire them. You've got Lamar and you're not winning. John Harbaugh should be fired. Eric DeCosta should be fired. How do you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, and look at all the money that you paid Lamar Jackson? You just keep kicking the can down the road, but yet you're not winning Super Bowls. You should be fired. Bengals, I mean, my goodness, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you've got maybe the best wide receiver core, and you've had it for how long? Not to mention one of the best quarterbacks in football with that trio. Not to mention Trey Hendrickson, one of the best pass rushers in football. I mean, it's not even a guarantee you're going to the playoffs year to year. Fired. Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett, fire them all. Chiefs obviously are good to go. They've won Super Bowls. However, give it another 2-3 years. If you don't win again, fired. Fire Andy Reid and everybody else. Chargers, I mean, my goodness, they've had a top-tier quarterback. Haven't been able to do jack squat. Fired. Everybody's fired. I mean, let's just look at the pass rushers. Aiden Hutchinson, Detroit, 1,000% they're all getting fired. I know he got hurt last year, but that's just one piece. You've also got Amon-Ra. You've got Penei Sewell. You got Brian Branch, right? Okay, so how about we give him one more year? Dan Campbell gets one more year, along with Brad Holmes, who I think has been the best GM in all of football and should be given a 10-year contract. But if you don't win a Super Bowl this year, I think they both get fired. How about that? Again, Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati, everybody's fired. TJ Watt, Pittsburgh, fire everybody. San Francisco, Nick Bosa. You've had Bosa for how many years now? Let's take a look at how many years Bosa has been a 49er. 6 years. Bosa has been a 49er. Fire everybody. Shanahan's got to go. You've had Bosa this entire time and haven't won, and that's just one guy. They've had a lot of really top-tier players. Again, going back to quarterbacks, Cincinnati Bengals, fire everybody. Baltimore, fire everybody. Chargers, fire everybody. Washington, I'll give you about a year. Maybe 2 years. You get this year and next year with Jaden Daniels. If you don't win a Super Bowl, you're all fired. Buffalo with Josh Allen. I mean, good Lord. How many years has Josh Allen, even granting those first 2 years weren't very good? It's been 5 years. 5 years of Josh Allen, fired. You're not even getting this year. I am not trusting you with this anymore. Tampa Bay's got Baker, who is playing out of his mind. Give you another year or two to figure that out, assuming Baker stays up. Jared Goff, Detroit, they're already getting fired anyway, so I'm not worried about that. Houston with C.J. Stroud. Obviously the Packers, I mean, we already know that's what we're talking about here. How about elite wide receivers? I know you got the point a long time ago, but I'm going to hammer this point because it's stupid and you all need to stop saying it. Puka Nacua in L.A., right? I mean, good Lord. I know they won a Super Bowl at one point, but man, they've had some pieces. Kittle, San Francisco, everybody's fired. Nico Collins, again, Houston, they're all getting fired. You got a year or so. Drake London, you got about a year. Amon-Ra, again, fired. Justin Jefferson, one of the better head coaches in football, but let's be honest, if you can't get it done with an elite receiver going into year I don't know how many, I'm sorry, you get fired. That's just the way we do this. Brock Bowers, for the Raiders, they're probably going to get fired anyways, but just in case they actually do a good job and they're like, no, we're not going to fire them, too bad, fire them. T. Higgins, Cincinnati, fire him. Mike Evans, Tampa, fire him. Mark Andrews, Baltimore, fire him. Malik Neighbors for the Giants will give you a couple years, and then you're all fired. Offensive tackles, Rashawn Slater for the Chargers, fired. Teron Armstead, Miami, fire everyone. Penei Sewell, again, Detroit, fire everyone. Trent Williams, San Francisco, fire everyone. Bernard Raymond, Indianapolis Colts, fire everyone. Darisaw, Minnesota, sorry, fire everyone. Charles Cross in Seattle, fire everybody. Atlanta's got Chris Lindstrom at guard, 95 PFF grade, fire them all. Denver with Quinn Miners, Denver's on watch. Eric McCoy in New Orleans, Creed Humphrey in Kansas City, again. You got a couple years to prove you can get back or you're fired. How about defensive tackle? Cam Hayward, Pittsburgh, fire everybody. Dexter Lawrence for the Giants, fire everyone. Chris Jones, Kansas City. Again, you got 2 more years to get back. Leonard Williams in Seattle, fired. Zach Allen in Denver, led the league in sacks with 12, fired. How about corners? Denver has Patrick Surtain. They've had him for a while now. What are we doing? What are we even doing? Fired. Marlon Humphrey in Baltimore, fired. Christian Gonzalez in New England. Trent McDuffie in Kansas City. Again, you got 2 years. You understand how stupid this is? That's not how we judge these teams and their coaches and whatnot. There's 2 reasons a team doesn't win a Super Bowl. Because of you or because of the other guys. Baltimore is a very good team with a very good coach and a very good GM, and they haven't won a Super Bowl. You don't fire the very good coach and the very good GM any more than you decide we need a new quarterback. It would be just that stupid. Well, we must need a new quarterback because we're not winning with this guy. It's not the quarterback's fault, stupid. Sometimes there's other teams that are really good that end up winning it all. And it's not Lamar's fault, and it's not DeCosta's fault. Saying that the Packers have to win this year or the next 2 years or everybody should be fired is stupid. Matt LaFleur should be fired if Matt LaFleur is a coach that is deserving of being fired. Brian Gutekunst should be fired if he's a GM that is deserving of being fired. Not winning a Super Bowl is a stupid standard. As Dallas should have shown you, Micah Parsons doesn't guarantee Super Bowls. Just like Aiden Hutchinson doesn't guarantee Super Bowls. Just like Myles Garrett doesn't guarantee Super Bowls. Just like Trey Hendrickson doesn't guarantee Super Bowls. Like Von Miller didn't guarantee Super Bowls. Even if they won one, it's just one out of his 15-year career. Well, they better win or everybody's getting fired. No, that's you being a stupid person, Courtney.
The Bears to not get involved here, I'm not surprised given the question mark right now is not about the defense. The question,
according to your entire fan base, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And let's remember, your defense looked good up until you fired your defensive head coach, and then it went to 0. Okay? You don't have... there's certainly question marks. And even if there's not question marks, it doesn't matter. Be like Arizona saying, look, our biggest concern is not really quarterback, so no, we shouldn't trade for Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, the fact that Murray maybe isn't your biggest concern is irrelevant to the question of should we upgrade to Lamar Jackson. Therefore, I'm happy we never did it, because we have other needs. Your highest graded pass rusher last year was Montez Sweat with a 65.7 PFF grade. The highest pass rush grade was a 70.5, and it was Darrell Taylor, who had 31 pressures and 3 sacks on the season. In fact, 49 pressures and 6 sacks was your most productive player. Again, Montez Sweat. It's good enough. It's good enough. No, it's not.
question mark right now is not about anything other than can Caleb Williams be your franchise quarterback? This doesn't solve that problem.
You're right.
First of all, there's multiple questions about the Chicago Bears. The biggest one is Caleb. That doesn't mean you don't have other ones. There's a reason why you draft other positions, and in free agency you go get other positions. Because even though the biggest question is quarterback, and the biggest priority is quarterback, there's still an issue here if your quarterback ends up getting fixed, but the rest of the team sucks. Correct?
Right there. You're exactly right there. But I do believe that because he is 26
Sure.
and because he's entering his prime, that
Yes.
if Ryan Poles was not involved in that, I would keep that a secret because I think it's
Correct. Just like if, Caleb was your guy, so you decided not to interview anybody else, you shouldn't go around bragging about that. Because what if Caleb isn't very good and, one of the other guys goes on to be a very, 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 very good quarterback? That might make you look like a jag-off.
total negligence. You're right about this.
It is
They had
negligence.
Micah Parsons away from competing for.
And we talk about this all. This is basic due diligence. Even if you're not super likely, you still make a phone call. You still figure out what they want, and you still try to 2 first-round picks. You're like, nah.
Super Bowl.
Actually, you weren't, because you don't even know what they wanted, because you didn't even call, apparently, according to what they're talking about.
But you could make the argument that if he were here, next year would be a year you could go for.
But couldn't any team make that argument?
Yes! Yes! Yes, which is why every team should have been in on this, you stupid person. Yeah, but couldn't everybody say that? Yeah, including the Bears. So why didn't he do it? Ugh.
Just because of the age here. He's 26 years old. He is,
Yes.
for pass
Yes.
rushers,
Yes.
you get into your prime, 28, 29. He could have multiple primes, and he's already been one of the best defensive players in the NFL.
So why do you think you're making a point right now?
I know it's a hard pill to swallow when you feel like you missed out on somebody
You
like
did.
this, especially you're going to now, for the next 10 years, potentially facing him twice a year.
Today, though, Courtney, I think like the Packers felt in 2018 when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack and the Packers wanted him. And that was one of the reasons the Bears were compelled to go get him. And you saw what happened that year. The Bears were good enough to play in the Super Bowl that year. They didn't double doink.
Correct.
But I think that this year you feel like this is the Packers' Khalil Mack move.
Yes. Yes. The gentleman, David Haw, co-host of Mully and Haw 670 The Score, is absolutely correct about everything he said. Courtney Cronin, who's kind of a jerk, by the way, not because of personal, or I've never, whatever, but I've seen her have little temper tantrums. Not a super smart take here. And that's why I'm going to put it in the cope category. Again, it's possible that she felt this way all along. But I think this is one of those things where if the Bears had done it, would Courtney Cronin be coming out saying, yeah, but I don't know. They don't really need him right now. No, she would be doing backflips and talking about how this changes everything and all that. This is pure cope. I can't stop getting chills. I need football here so bad. I need a hobby. I need a coma. I need something to put me out till Sunday at 3 o'clock. So I just saw a comment. You have to wonder if this will force Poles to finally draft a left tackle. And there was this flood of a realization. And the flood was, I'm sitting here looking at Darisaw in Minnesota. I'm looking at Penei Sewell in Detroit, and I'm thinking, those are tough matchups, but we got a guy that can win that, assuming they even line him up over on that side. It'd be easier to just put him on the other, but whatever, right? It's like we got a guy that can win those matchups, and that's cool. And he can do other cool stuff. You understand there are also situations where we're going to go up against teams that just have terrible football players, and we can just put Micah Parsons across from that terrible offensive lineman and say, have fun. Okay, sorry. I know we're running long here, but I'm not done with the Bears yet, so here we go. I had to address that video because it is a very common critique.
It wasn't really the right time for the Bears.
Bro, we're not talking about like a Montez Sweat trade, which hilariously, why did you trade for Montez Sweat if this is not the right time? What was that all about? It's funny that people are finally saying the right things where it's like, it's not quite the right time. You're right. I've been saying that about Minnesota and Chicago forever, but that's in regard to you being a bad team and you going out and paying a bunch of money for a 31-year-old. It's not about Micah Parsons. Let's take a quick look at a couple of post-draft takes from the Chicago Bears, media, fans, etc. Windy City Gridiron. Donald... Let me try that again. Windy City Gridiron. Article written by Donald Gooch. I almost made it through that time. 5 reasons the Packers Micah Parsons trade isn't as good as it looks. I got him. The Micah Parsons trade is bad news for Bears, Vikings, and Lions, but maybe it's not as bad as we think. Number 1, the Packers are staring at cap hell. And he adds a tweet to his article from Nick Whalen, who is just a complete troll. I've argued with him a bunch of times. Trading for Micah Parsons, and this isn't the tweet, and paying him in excess of $45 million places serious strain on the Packers' cap situation, especially given they are already paying Jordan Love a ton of money to be the number 1 quarterback. Furthermore, the Packers are $35 million in dead cap by trading Kenny Clark to the Dallas Cowboys, given he had already signed a $64 million contract extension with the Packers in 2024. Okay, the problem with writing this article before you actually look at the cap details is not realizing that, number 1, the Kenny Clark cap problem happens this year only. Number 2, Micah's cap hit is very low. Number 3, the Packers have a ton of money left over. Number 4, by next year, by extension, The cap hill's basically gone up until that Micah Parsons cap hit really starts to hurt us, which, as far as we can tell, is never. Again, there's year 1, year 2, year 3, and then either trade, cut, or extend year. Unless something goes terribly wrong, it's an extend year. We're talking 26, 27, and 28. He's 28 years old. He is in the prime of his prime. The Packers will extend him. That will go probably up until year 31-ish. Again, with some fake years baked into that, but that will be the plan. You extend him, let's say you give him a 4-year extension, it'll be 29, 30, 31, year 32, with maybe the last 2 years being a little bit of a, we can get out of this if we need to kind of a situation. It gets worse when we cast our eyes on the free agents in 2026 and 27. This is where the tweet says, 2025 could be the Green Bay Packers' best chance to make a run. The surplus of early draft picks are becoming free agents over the next 2 years, and they can't keep everyone. This is where I need to go back to some of these Packers articles talking about, oh man, they could get rid of these people. Notable 2026 free agents. Quay Walker, he's going to get paid. Christian Watson, if they want to pay him, they're going to. I don't know if they're going to. He needs to come back. He needs to be healthy. He needs to contribute. If he does, he's getting paid. Romeo Doubs, kind of a similar situation. Again, if they decide that Romeo should stay, he's going to stay. If they decide that they want to move on, they're going to move on. Rasheed Walker, I don't know. But it's going to come down to Jordan Morgan primarily when they make this decision about Rasheed Walker. Kingsley Enagbare, I don't know. It's a big prove-it year for him. Maybe he stays, maybe he doesn't. It's not going to be a massive contract either way. Sean Ryan is our right guard. Very likely that he ends up getting paid. Malik Willis, I don't know. Here's the thing, though. 0 of these people are going to be let go because they don't have money because of a guy making $19 million against the cap, which is not a big deal. Might as well get to this tweet that I put out now. This is why I laugh at Bears fans trying to lecture us about the salary cap and how much pain we're in. Remember, $9 million this year. Well, we'll get there because it's in my tweet. Let's just leave it at that. Aaron Lemming, who's a Chicago Bears guy, wrote this on Twitter. According to Over the Cap, the Bears have just $1.6 million in cap space. That's without Tyson Bagent's extension or Devin Duvernay's $1.2 million deal to get to 53. IR is costing them $8.7, but would guess Murray, Kramer, Johnson, and Wheeler will receive settlements soon. The details aren't really important. What's important is how in the heck are the Bears at $1.6 million in cap space? Who are they paying? Here's what I tweeted out. Okay? For those that didn't see it. I'm over here trying to figure out what they're spending all this money on. Come to find out, they have 7 players with cap hits over $10 million. By the way, the Packers have, I believe, 5. The Packers, right? Better team with much better players. 5, which is normal. You usually only have 5-ish players that actually have about a $10 million cap hit in any given year. It's not as many as you would think. You think about all these guys getting these big, massive contracts, but when you look at the actual allocation, the vast majority of the money is going to these guys making $2-3 million a year. Come to find out, they have 7 players with cap hits over $10 million this year, including their backup tight end Cole Kmet, a new free agent center that can't pass block, their right guard that just all around sucks at football, over $10 million for that guy. He's not good. Tremaine Edmonds, who is awful. In addition, this is the rest of the 7. They're eating over $20 million in cap space. The Packers have 2 of those. $20 million in cap space for Jalen Johnson, who is a top 20 corner. I think he ranked 20th. He's good, but just to be clear, that's a cap hit over $20 million. Over 25 or at $25 million for DJ Moore, who ranked 56th among wide receivers last year, and over $25 million for Montez Sweat. He is a 29-year-old who ranked 35th as a pass rusher last year. The 2 guys we're paying over $20 million for are Rashawn Gary at about the same amount as what they're paying Montez Sweat, and Jordan Love at $29.7 million, our quarterback. The other guys were paying over 10 but under 20. Xavier McKinney, arguably the best safety in all of football. Elton Jenkins, who we're hoping can be a Pro Bowl caliber offensive lineman that can pass block and run block. And just over 10 million at 11.3, Josh Jacobs, one of the best running backs in the entire NFL. That means Micah Parsons, Aaron Banks, who we just was a big free agent signing, Zach Tom, Keyshawn Nixon, our number 1 corner, Nate Hobbs, another big free agent addition, and a bunch of guys on rookie contracts. Holy crap, we have some talent on rookie contracts. But none of them are even cracking 10 million. They're very concerned about next year. Oh, next year they're in big trouble. Oh, their cap space, all this stuff. Good. Listen to me. Let me see if I can sort by, I guess I can't. Here's the list of guys expected to make over 10 million, okay? Devontae Wyatt, Nate Hobbs, Zach Tom, Aaron Banks, Micah Parsons, Josh Jacobs, Elton Jenkins, Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary, and Jordan Love. That's 10. What did I just say? This is the problem everybody had. Oh, they've only got $10 million in cap space, and Micah Parsons, oh boy, that's going to blow up the cap. By the way, that's the $10 million includes already Micah Parsons. They're not going to pay 10 guys $10+ million a year. With how many over 20? We got Banks. We got Micah at about 20, Elton at 25, Rashawn at 28, and Jordan at 36. 5 guys over 20 with 1 over 30. First of all, the fact that they have that and it still leaves $10 million in cap space according to Over the Cap is pretty impressive. Number 2, this is massively going to get reworked. I don't really see a world where Rashawn Gary, who is going to be our number 2 edge rusher at 28 years old, is going to be making about, or not making, but his cap hit is going to be about $28 million. I don't see that being a thing. I don't know exactly what they do. Possibly look to extend him. I hope he has a good year. I mean, you got to understand that if we extend him, we're extending into 30. Could be a restructure, although there's not much to restructure here. The other would just be a pay cut, which I doubt would be a thing. Rashawn is probably not going to be too receptive to that. The final, obviously, would be to move on from him. I don't think that would be the case, but we do have to consider something. If Van Ness explodes, Rashawn Gary stays at about what he is. Rashawn Gary will be 29 years old. We would save $11 million on the cap in 2026, and then essentially $31 million in 2027, because that's what his cap hit is in 2027. And we would have Van Ness, who, again, in this scenario, exploded, and maybe the best pass rusher in football on the other side. We can talk about that another time, but these are the kinds of things, and I have to do this every year, remind everybody that just because that's what the words say right now doesn't mean that's what it's going to stay at. The cap number is going to change. In addition, all these free agents, you can't pay everybody. Yes, you literally can, because once you pay them, the problem becomes, for Bears fans, they're not going to get very much money. And I'm not just talking about in total, but year one, the cap hit is exceedingly low. Quay Walker's probably going to get paid. If he doesn't, do I care? Not super much, but the Packers like him. They're going to pay him. He's not going to make a ton of money. Number 1, because he's a linebacker. Number 2, because he's our number 2 linebacker. And number 3, because he's not a super great linebacker. But he's going to get paid. It's going to be a relatively low number, and it's going to be spread out in such a way, especially that in year one, it's not going to cost anything. Christian Watson, if he gets paid, is not going to be paid very much. John Fitzpatrick will be paid pennies. Malik Willis, if we can retain him, will be paid pennies. If not, we will trade him and get a decent haul for Malik Willis, and that will be exciting. Sean Ryan will be paid a modest sum. He's a starting right guard, but he is not going to get a bag because he's just Zane Anderson will be 29, 30 years old. He is not a priority, but they like him, and they will pay him pennies if they decide to. Orzic is on this list. He already got paid. Romeo Doubs, again, he's not getting big-time money. He's not. And he might throw a fit and might force his way off the team as a result, and guess what? Godspeed. I haven't even taken a break yet, and we're at 40 minutes. Let me finish my tweet here. Micah Parsons' cap hit over the next 3 years, 9.97, 19.24, and 26.85. Then comes the extension. Any Bears fan talking about Micah's cap hit can shove it forever. Notable 2027 free agents. This is Nick Whalen's tweet here. Wyatt, Van Ness, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Elton Jenkins, Luke Musgrave, Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, Carl Brooks. How many of these guys are premier, blue chip, break the bank type of guys? The answer is probably 0 unless Van Ness blows up. But even that, you're edge 2, so And if he blows up, he's going to get paid they're not going to let him go through 2027. It's going to be, hey, let's pay him now because his price is going to be low. He only had 1 good year. Let's do it now. Jaden Reed will not break the bank. Tucker Kraft, he's probably going to get a sizable sum. It's not going to be a Travis Kelce sum. Jenkins, we might be looking more so out the door, as much as I hate to say it. I mean, it's just an age thing. Musgrave also might be out the door. Valentine, as far as I know, isn't even starting right now. Either way, he's not going to be a break-the-bank guy. Keyshawn Nixon will not break the bank, and Carl Brooks, if he's on the team, will not break the bank. Some of these guys will not come back, but nobody will be cut because Micah Parsons is such a massive weight on our cap hit that we just can't do anything. $19 million next year? That's a modest sum. We have multiple guys making more than that already. Kenny has blasted our cap for more than that in a few other years. The Bears have multiple guys over that number. Every team in football has guys making more than $19 million and $27 million. And you know what? They can pay people. It's not that big of a freaking deal. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Let's do number 2. We might not get past the Bears. This is just what we're doing. There's no conceivable way to get past the Bears. Number 2 in this article about why it's actually a terrible thing for the Packers. Kenny Clark was the key cog in the Packers' run defense. The Packers are 5th in the NFL in rushing yards per game in 2024, allowing just 146.8 yards per game on the ground. That's pretty good. A big part of that run defense was Kenny Clark eating double teams in the middle of the Packers' defense. Is it? I'm sure he'll provide proof of that. While the Packers' edge rush is going to be something to behold, with Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons crashing the edges, the Packers' interior defense has taken a serious blow with Kenny Clark headed to Dallas. Again, I'm still waiting for any evidence of that. Outside of going out and trying to sign Christian Wilkins, there are no obvious solutions for Green Bay to fill the hole Clark leaves in their interior defense. Well, it's funny to me because the Packers' run defense has been terrible since forever. Hafley shows up and suddenly the run defense is doing a good job. And I'm supposed to believe that it's Kenny that's doing that? Why didn't Kenny do that in 2023 or 2022 or 2021 or even when he graded out positively in terms of run defense, which is a long time ago, our run defense sucked. I've said this before, but Kenny Clark was our highest graded run defender at a 57 was his run defense PFF grade. Again, a lot of people are saying Brooks is going to step up and be that guy. He had a 37. He was our lowest graded run defender, so I don't super know that that's going to be the thing. That might just be a snap count thing where Carl Brooks was the next most amount of snaps outside of TJ Slayton. So the assumption is he just steps into that role. That's fine, but he was certainly more of a pass rusher than a run defender. I think pretty much all of our guys are. The reality is we have 2 new defensive tackles. Hopefully they can help in that regard. If not, we're going to carry on with a defense that didn't have any run defenders as far as defensive tackles and still had a really good run defense. Probably something to do, number 1, with scheme, number 2, with the freaking linebackers. Not to mention some pretty good safeties over the top. But yeah, Quay and Edgerrin and those boys might have played a role in the run defense a touch. Not to mention, you've got a bunch of defensive tackles whose job is penetration, get in the backfield. And so there were quite a few plays that happened in the backfield because on the way to the quarterback, they happened to have a running back fall right into their lap. Just throwing that out there. So, yeah, I'm not buying that. Number 3, the Packers remain an incomplete team. Oh, wow. So this is the hole. They shouldn't have done it because now how are you going to fix all these other holes? I can't wait to find out what massive holes they have. It's not just their interior rush that the Packers have to worry about. Wait, when did interior rush? I thought it was run defense. Okay, it's fine. The Packers' secondary, outside of McKinney, is the Achilles heel of this defense. Oh, boy. A secondary that saw Jair Alexander hop ship for Baltimore. He didn't really play last year for us. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, and Nate Hobbs aren't striking fear in the heart of any offensive coordinators. I mean, if you mean striking fear in the sense of like being a top 5 guy, that's probably true. But you understand, I'm not going to care about this little section unless and until you can demonstrate to me that these corners got completely picked apart last year, that they were actually a weakness. So that's what you have to demonstrate to me. Otherwise, you're just saying words. Oh, I'm not scared of Valentine. Maybe you don't know anything about Valentine. You don't know how good he is. Is that a possibility? Because I bet it is. So Green Bay's pressure better get home or they're likely to be gashed in the pass game. Okay, so that obviously happened last year, right? So demonstrate to me statistically that that's what happened last year. They got gashed through the air, and that unless Micah Parsons can fix the pass rush, that they're going to continue to get gashed through the air. That's what you have to do now. There's one more paragraph. On offense, the Packers... Whoa, wait. You didn't finish. You didn't do the part where you demonstrate to me that this is a unit that got gashed through the air. I don't understand. Well, I mean, all right, let's look at Week 18 real quick here. Keyshawn Nixon Week 18 of the 2024 season, gave up 2 receptions for 7 yards. Carrington Valentine gave up 2 receptions for 17 yards. But it's the Bears, whatever, it's fine. Week 17, we had 3 corners that played any significant amount of snaps here. Carrington Valentine gave up 5 receptions for 43 yards and had a pick. Keyshawn Nixon, 5 receptions for 55 yards and had a pass breakup. Eric Stokes, 1 reception for 4 yards. So, all right, well, week 17 obviously wasn't bad either. How about week 16? Week 16 now. Keyshawn Nixon, 7 targets, 5 receptions. Oh boy, here we go. 55 yards. No touchdowns given up at all. So that's not a ton. Outside of Keyshawn Nixon, Ballantyne, 1 reception for 4 yards. Stokes, 1 reception for 4 yards. Valentine, 1 reception for 20 yards. 0 touchdowns given up by anybody in the secondary. By the way, that is 3 weeks in a row with 0 touchdowns given up by anybody in the secondary. Nobody really giving up more than about 50 yards, with that being a severe outlier. All right, how about week 15? I'm sure there's some bangers in here somewhere. Keyshawn Nixon, 54 coverage grade. Oh boy, here we go. 4 targets, 4 receptions. Oh, geez, he gave up every single target. For 26 yards. That's it, 26 yards. I mean, should we break that into quarters? That's 5 yards a quarter. That's 1 reception and 5 yards per quarter. Carrington Valentine had a 90 coverage grade, 3 receptions, 32 yards, a pick, and a pass breakup. Eric Stokes, 81 coverage grade, gave up 2 receptions for 10 yards. So we got weeks 15, 16, 17, 18. 0 touchdowns given up. 1 game where a guy gave up more than 50. 0 over 100. 0 touchdowns, and now 2 to 3 interceptions. Are they striking fear? I don't know that they're striking fear, but I'm just trying to find the part where this is some kind of a massive liability. I'm struggling to find that anywhere. Keyshawn Nixon, 7 receptions, 66 yards. So again, still not one of those 100-yard disasters, but it is over 50. Unfortunately for the detractors, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 pass breakup, 85 coverage grade. Carrington Valentine, 2 receptions, 19 yards. Stokes, going all the way back to week 14, gave up the first touchdown. 3 targets, 1 reception, 1 yard, touchdown. He gave up a yard in the whole game. 21 coverage snaps, he gave up 1 yard. Yes, it was a touchdown, that sucks. That's it, though. 0 receptions outside of that. Keyshawn was the primary guy that was targeted. 10 targets. 7 among Valentine and Stokes. 10 for Keyshawn. And again, it was 66 yards, a pick, and a pass breakup. I'm really struggling to see why there is some kind of a liability here. I'm not seeing it. I mean, let me just read this again. Green Bay's pressure better get home or they're likely to be gashed in the pass game, particularly in the deep third. Well, let's go back week 14 back through the end of the season here. Just look at what other guys did. Jalen Ramsey, he's a pretty good corner, right? He gave up 146 yards. D. Alford, 127. Carlton Davis, there's a corner for you out in Detroit, gave up 120. It's another team talking trash. Shaquille Griffin, Minnesota, gave up 101 yards. By the way, Carlton Davis also gave a touchdown. D. Alford gave up 127 yards and 4 touchdowns. Trayvon Diggs in Dallas, supposedly a pretty good corner, gave up 85 yards. Teron Johnson in Buffalo gave up 77. How about week 15? Talking about guys getting gashed. Amani Aruwariye, also in Dallas, 103 yards and a touchdown. Tyson Campbell in Jacksonville, 4 receptions, 97 yards. Baker in Tennessee, 93 yards. Terrion Arnold in Detroit. That's an NFC North team, for those that don't know. 91 yards. When did the Packers ever do that? I don't remember the Packers doing that. Christian Fulton for the Chargers, 88 yards. Zion McCollum, 80 yards. Fulton also a touchdown. Joey Porter Jr., ton of talk about that guy, right? He gave up 69 yards in week 15. How about week 16? These are what I would call getting gashed. Jack Jones, 108 yards and a touchdown. for the Raiders. Deron Bland, the guy that just got $1 billion from Dallas, 84 yards. Terrion Arnold again. Detroit again. 82 yards and a touchdown given up. These are the guys getting gashed. 75, 73, 77, 71, and touchdowns. Week 17, gashed is Riley Moss, giving up 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenny Moore in Indy, supposedly pretty good, I think. 120 yards and 2 touchdowns given up. Andrew Booth in Dallas again. 111 yards and 2 touchdowns given up. Terrion Arnold again. 94 yards given up. D. Alford in Atlanta, 92 yards and a touchdown. Michael Davis in Washington, 92 yards. Jonathan Jones in New England, 91 yards and a touchdown. Jaquan McMillan in Denver, 85 yards and a touchdown. Marlon Humphrey, 84 yards. These are the guys getting gashed. Where are the Packers? I don't see Packers getting gashed. Week 18, Chris Boyd, Houston Texans, 112 yards and a touchdown. Nehemiah Pritchett in Seattle, 100 yards. Nazeen Johnson, Kansas City Chiefs, 94 yards. Noah Igbenogany in Washington, giving up 89 yards. I don't see the Packers getting gashed, like ever. Any of them, not even one of them. So again, I wish you would have finished the article a little bit here about the Packers being an incomplete team. I've heard this narrative about the corners being a liability, but I'm waiting for literally anyone to back it up with any amount of information. Because I'm trying to do your homework for you, and I'm not seeing the conclusion that you're coming to. It's funny how people come to conclusions before they even start researching things. On offense, the Packers should still feature a solid rushing attack with Josh Jacobs, so that's true, and Matt LaFleur, and they added a first-round receiver for the first time in decades in Matthew Golden. That's true, sounds good. But I, for one, was underwhelmed with their offensive acquisitions. Oh, were you? But what did they need and what did they do? I don't know what you mean you were underwhelmed by their acquisitions. It sounds to me like a Bears fan who just, gets a little overexcited about just doing things. One of those fans that just likes to do things. I just want a list of 12 guys that we got in free agency. I don't care if they're good. I don't care if they're cheap or expensive or whatever. I want a list of 12 things, and then I want everybody in the media to say that Ryan Poles dominated the offseason. Is that what we're talking? That can't be what you're talking about. You're a smarter guy than that, right, Gooch? I, for one, was underwhelmed with their off-season acquisitions. They paid a bunch of money for Aaron Banks, who had trouble staying healthy for the 49ers, and was fairly middling when he was healthy. Okay, I mean, again, there's nothing to back that up, but that's fine. The injury thing is stat in and of itself. But the middling would be nice if there's just anything to say, here's why I believe that. I don't even disagree. I feel like this is lazy writing. Jenkins is starting to get long in the tooth. No, you're not pulling that. Considering you went out and paid guys that are older than Jenkins, no, that ain't going to fly. What, you wanted us to go out in free agency and replace Elton Jenkins? That's stupid. That's fake. It has always seemed like the Packers are able to find a top third offensive line no matter who they plug into their starting five, but color me skeptical that this offensive line will be as dominant as past Packers teams. I'm sorry. Are you comparing this even to last year? Because last year they were pretty good, right? But now you're skeptical that this year, this offensive line is going to be good. Same right tackle, same left tackle, same right guard, Elton Jenkins, who's proven to be a good player at center, and Banks, who you think is middling, which would be the only concern, which is would be a compliment to the center we had last year. But you're skeptical this year. You're not going to really provide anything in depth to explain why. You're just going to say it and just leave it there. Okay. Oh, and speaking of Jacobs, he'll be 28 years old next season. Next season? Yeah, and Caleb will be 40 in 20 years. What are we talking about, stupid? 28 is not old, and next season is not this season. Are you saying he'll be 27 this year? Is that what you're trying to say? An age where running backs tend to fall off a cliff. Some yes, some no. Aaron Jones didn't really fall off a cliff, and typically it ends up being the smaller guys that can't really hold up physically that tend to fall off a cliff. But yeah, maybe. This coming from a team, by the way, that... can we just acknowledge the fact that one of the holes that they're pointing to is running back, the other is Elton Jenkins? This is your big brain article here about how the team also has other holes, which, by the way, all 32 teams have holes, and the best you can come up with is corners with nothing to back that up because you're wrong. Aaron Banks, who is at worst mediocre, Elton Jenkins, who's a very good offensive lineman, and Josh Jacobs. That's who you pointed to in this article. AI can't replace people soon enough. I mean, I mean that. The sooner AI can come in and just start writing these articles to replace people like this, the better. Number 4, none of this works if Jordan Love isn't him. Stop saying him, you idiot. Stop saying him. Stop it. Just stop it. You all sound stupid. It was stupid when you said it about Justin Fields. It's stupid when you say it about Caleb. Don't start saying it about my quarterback. Okay, he's not him. Knock it off. Keep that bull crap away from my team. He is him. Doesn't work if he's not him. It goes along with this article, though, as being not very descript. What does that mean? I don't know. I just say words. He has to be him. Well, let's see if he explains what him means. As a Chicago Bears fan can tell, Green Bay Packers fans, trading for a generational defensive line talent doesn't guarantee you to get to host the Lombardi Trophy. Bro, you don't need to tell us that because we're not stupid in the head. Everybody knows that there's no such thing as a guarantee. I don't care which player you go out and get. There's no guarantees. I'm sorry that you morons didn't realize that when you got Khalil Mack. Indeed, he loves throwing these words. He says things like him, but then throws in indeed. I, for one, was underwhelmed. Jordan Love ain't him, bro. Indeed, despite the dominance of Khalil Mack as a Chicago Bear, the Bears never won a single playoff game with Mack. Yeah, I know, because you suck. It wasn't just Mack. That entire defense was elite. I said for years, I said we haven't seen a defense like this since the Legion of Boom. And I was right. So what does that have to do with Khalil Mack? Well, we didn't automatically win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I know, stupid. Any other points you'd like to make about that? Maybe the part where you guys suck at finding and developing quarterback talent? Maybe that has a little bit more to do with it than Khalil Mack, who turned you into the Legion of frickin' Boom, okay? And Vic Fangio and a couple other pieces. You landed Khalil Mack and the perfect defensive coordinator to pair him with and ended up with an elite defense. You guys should have been a dynasty, and you messed that up. And the reason you're never going to fix this team is because you're all too stupid to realize that Khalil Mack wasn't the problem. He was the thing that was finally going to make you relevant again. But you don't know that. And you come away with that thinking, well, I'm traumatized by it, so I never want to make that move again. Okay, good. Never learn anything ever, you idiots. The most significant factor in the result was not Mack failing to live up to the hype. He did. No, it was Mitch Trubisky busting out as a starting NFL quarterback. Right. The Green Bay Packers can take solace in the fact that Jordan Love doesn't appear to be as bad as Trubisky. Right, which kind of just means we should delete number 4. I understand you want to make it 5, but let's delete number 4. Jordan Love on a bad day with a bum, ankle, shoulder, rib cage, butt crack. I don't care what's hurting him. Will never be Mitch Trubisky. Goes on to talk about all his statistics. Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix. Unfortunately for the Packers, Love does not add a rushing component to his game like Murray and Nix do. This is the worst article ever written. So now we're talking about rushing. So Jordan Love, man, we are all over the place here. So, bad news, getting him doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl. But it can make you great enough to win a Super Bowl, except unless you don't have a good enough quarterback. But it looks like you do have a good enough quarterback, but he doesn't run the ball. Like Kyler and Bo Nix. First of all, he can run the ball. He's not elite, but he can run the ball. He can run the ball just fine. He didn't last year because he was hurt, which I'm sure you don't know that because you're a Bears fan and you don't know anything. Why did you choose Kyler Murray and Bo Nix? Bo Nix is not Lamar Jackson. Okay, he's got wheels like just about anybody does, like Love does. Kyler Murray, fine, but he's a kind of a bad quarterback that spends all his time playing video games, and I don't understand why we're doing this. The good news, we're back to good news. Good news, the bad news. The good news, the bad news. The good news is Love, combined with LaFleur's offensive approach and good offensive line, was elite at avoiding sacks. Oh, maybe it's that offensive line that you're skeptical about, stupid. Only being sacked 14 times in 2024, is that enough? Perhaps. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. I can't even finish this. You are all over the place. You're contradicting yourself 17 different times. You're contradicting your contradictions. Final sentence here. If Love can't move into the top 10 of NFL quarterbacks, it's likely the Packers will squander the Parsons window just like the Bears squandered the Mack window. Not necessarily. He doesn't need to be a top 10 quarterback to be able to do that. It would help, just like Parsons will help. obviously, right? But you don't have to be top 10. You just need to not be bottom 5 like Trubisky. And even that probably, because again, if your kicker had not double doinked that, you would have won the game. And there's a good chance that with Trubisky, you go on to not only attend, but win a Super Bowl. Maybe it doesn't happen, but maybe it does. And that's with a dog crap quarterback. So yeah, I can't just sit here and say, well, if you're not top 10, then you don't get to win. Okay, well, maybe. I don't know. Frickin' number 5. The Packers were not one player away. Good Lord. This stupidity. I can't handle this. First of all, this is the same argument you made. This is number 3 all over again? It's an incomplete team, not a player. It's the same argument. It's also a stupid argument. Before I even read it, it's stupid. First of all, nobody's a player away. Who's a player away? Any team you can list that's a player away is already a Super Bowl contender. The Packers could have won a Super Bowl without Micah Parsons. It's not impossible. Are the Ravens a player away? Listen, the Ravens can find... I can find their biggest weakness and say if you replace that's going to be a great thing and help them win a Super Bowl. Here's the problem. Number 1, they can win it without him. Number 2, they can lose with him. There's no such thing as a player away. Because as we've already established 5,000 times, nobody guarantees you a Super Bowl. And any Super Bowl winner you can find, I can tell you that they were not a player away. That they had multiple holes. Oh, the Chiefs, oh my goodness, they only have the one corner and they don't have any safeties and they got one good pass rusher as a defensive tackle and everybody else sucks and they're missing this offensive line piece and they got one receiver but the other two guys. So what? Shut up. They won the Super Bowl. They made it work. You're stupid. Speaking of the Packers in 2024, lost in the fact that they won 11 games and went to the playoffs. Oh, if you say the thing, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to frickin' lose it. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I can't even read the sentence. I'm sorry, but if you want to talk to me about how the Packers almost went 0-6 in the division, I will physically fight you. I will give you my address. You can come to my house and I will beat the living crap out of you. Because you're stupid and you deserve to get punched a lot. It's not lost because everybody talks about it 24/7, despite the fact that we're kind of just playing word games here. We're twisting statistics. We're pretending that that 4 of those 6 games were not 14 and 16 win teams, which, as I've said, Rodgers has literally never beaten one ever. So yeah, let's just pretend that's not a big deal. And the other 2 games were the Bears. Number 1, they beat. And number 2 was a Week 18 game when it was already clinched and the head coach couldn't make up his mind. Are we going all in or are we not? And we go through it and then our quarterback gets hurt and then he's like, oh, never mind, let's bench everybody real quick. And the whole thing was a freaking disaster. And by the way, your quarterback played like crap. The Bears barely won that game with a trick play and a last-second field goal against our backups. Shut the hell up. Ugh.
They were a blocked field goal away from going 0-6 in the division. They were a blocked field goal away from going 0-6 in the division.
Both losses to the Vikings were 1 score. They were very close to going 5-1 in the division. Again, these are all just word games. We're going to pretend that they were 0-6 because they were almost 0-6. Yeah, and they were almost 2 wins against the Vikings and 2 wins against the Bears. So who cares? Why are we playing the almost games so often? There was 1 game where they lost by 10 points to the Lions. Everything else was a single-digit loss, including the 3-point win against Detroit. As in, Detroit won by 3. But you don't hear me constantly talking about, the Packers were just a fingertip away from being 5-1 in the division, because you know why? They weren't. The Packers were not 0-6. Well, they were almost 0-6, yes, and they were almost 5-1. Almost doesn't just cut one direction, stupid. God. Hatred is what I have for that sentence. I'm so tired of hearing it over and over again, and everybody just being like, yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point. No, it's not. It's not a good point. It's not a really good point. It's not a good point. It's not a mediocre point. It is a stupid point. It is stupid to ignore the context of how good Minnesota and Detroit were. It is a stupid thing to pretend that because the Bears almost beat them a second time, we can talk about how basically they won twice, despite the fact that we're ignoring that they almost lost the other game. None of this is good or rational. None of it. It's stupid. It's stupid. Okay? Stupid. The Packers failed to win a playoff game, getting trounced by the Eagles and only scoring 10 points in a game that saw 4 Green Bay Packer turnovers, including 3 interceptions by Jordan Love. That's true. The Packers, who trotted out an injured quarterback who played bad, in part probably because he's injured, and also in part because he was getting into desperation mode because he was injured and not playing very well. Yeah, they lost, and they got beat pretty badly on offense in that one game in the postseason when Jordan Love was hurt against an unbelievably elite team that kicked the crap out of everybody, including the Chiefs, on their way to winning a Super Bowl. Is that the big brain point you're trying to make? Congratulations. Much has been said about the Bears not being a player away and why they shouldn't be looking at a Mac-like splash in the 2025 season. Much shouldn't be made about that because it's stupid. But you're right, it has been. But are the Packers really just a player away from competing in the NFC Championship, let alone the Super Bowl? Well, it's a stupid point because nobody's a player away from anything. The Packers have the talent without Micah Parsons to get to the Super Bowl. They already have that. And if you don't believe that and you believe their chance is 0%, you're stupid when it comes to math. Stick to art, okay? Because math is not your thing. Stick to your Legos. While the Packers' Vegas odds of winning the Super Bowl doubled overnight, I'm not sure we should put our money on the Packers' Super Bowl run in 2025. I don't even know the point you're making. You don't know if you should put your... I don't know if I should put my money on it either. What does that mean? What does that even mean? The odds are what the odds are. And you generally put money on things when you find a discrepancy. Should you put your money on them? I mean, if you think their odds are better than the 1,200 that they're currently sitting on, then yes, you should. What are you talking about? I'm not sure we should put our money on them. Why? Because you don't think they will win? Vegas doesn't either. Nobody does, because nobody has a better than 50% chance of winning the Super Bowl. So if that's your standard, nobody should be bet on. If you don't think they're good enough to make a run, then again, stick to Legos. They're still in one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest division in the NFL. Yeah, well, they're technically 1/3 of that equation, because the Bears don't factor into that equation. But yeah, it's a tough division. Not sure exactly why that matters, because if the Packers end up with like 11 wins again, they're going to be in the playoffs. It'll be a wild card. Same exact situation as last year. So it kind of just comes down to how good are you, which is part of the reason I think the whole division thing is stupid. Also, this doesn't really help your point in terms of why the Packers in and of themselves are not good enough, but whatever. Meaning that if they win the North, they may find it difficult to win enough games to earn... That even if they win the North, they may find it difficult to win enough games to earn the bye. Have they done enough to overcome the Washington Commanders, let alone the Eagles? What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with the initial question, are they a player away? You don't know who is this human being that wrote this terrible article, Donald Gooch? The name fits, but God. I'm sorry if you're 14. I don't mean to pick on a child, but born in Joliet, Donald was permanently hooked on the Bears, watching the Monsters of the Midway shuffle their way out of the first. So you saw them win in 85. At 10? You were 10 years old. You were born in 1975? You're 50, bro? In his spare time away from the Bears news and highlights, he teaches law and government at Stephen F. Austin State University. Don't ever go to Stephen F. Austin State University, please. What state is that in? It's in Nacogdoches, Texas. Don't go to that school. Whew. Man, oh man. Can you imagine trying to get an assignment from that guy? I read an article about how sometimes in law, maybe you kind of do this, but the government sometimes will determine the law. But here's the thing about the law is that the law can inform the government, right? So like, write a paper about the law and also how, you know how the weather gets kind of wet sometimes? You ever think about that? It gets rainy, right? But there's some other areas where it doesn't get rainy. It's like dry, like a desert, you know? But it doesn't have to be a desert to be dry. It could be dry somewhere else. It might just be a dry season in a wet area. Write an article about the rainforest when it's dry, or a desert when it rains. But I don't honestly know if that happens. So maybe you can't do a research paper on that. So write a research paper about whether it's possible to write a paper about whether it gets dry in the rainy parts of the world. Is the desert just one rain away from being a rainforest? Is it one rain away from having boa constrictors in it? Would it have boa constrictors, or would they be rain scorpions? Write a paper about rain scorpions. I can't even fathom. Ugh. I should be done, but I'm not done. Insider says Bears are right to avoid bold Micah Parsons type move. Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune was on 670 The Score and applauded the Bears front office for not making a deal for Parsons or any other type of trade that could be considered swinging for the fences, as the team isn't currently at that stage. Excuse me, explain the offseason to me when you guys were bragging about winning the offseason because of all the big swings you took. Now suddenly it's great that you did nothing because you're just not ready? What? You can't talk about left tackle situation and make note of some of the other roster areas that are going to need help and propose that it's a grand idea to start trading off future first-round picks and whatever else, Briggs said on Mully and Haw. Yeah, dude, I guess it makes perfect sense to say that you can't trade for Micah Parsons because you have to use a first-round pick on a left tackle next year. Can't be a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh round pick. Can't be a free agent acquisition. Can't even keep the guys that we have, despite the fact that we have multiple options at left tackle, but I guess we're giving up on all of them. We can't do any of those things, and therefore, because we have to use a first-round pick next year or the year after on a left tackle, we just can't quite get Micah Parsons. That sucks. That's too bad that it's such a specific thing that we have to do. Otherwise, this really could have worked out with Micah Parsons. We got Chris Kwasinski, something like that, something Polish. Would a trade for Micah Parsons have made sense for the 2025 Chicago Bears? It's a whole lot of writing. It's not worth time going through all the words because essentially it's the same old thing. Well, we're not really like a player away. Bears Insider reveals why Ryan Poles didn't go after Micah Parsons. This is hilarious. This is sportsmockery.com. Sports Mockery insider Jeff Hughes answered that question hours after the deal went down. He basically stated the Poles had discussed the idea with head coach Ben Johnson, who turned it down. The two seem to believe this team is not one player away. Ryan, quote, Ben, should we give up multiple first-round picks and $1 billion for one guy? Ben, no. The end. He writes in parentheses below that, the Bears won 5 games last year, folks. Scroll down a little bit further. Ryan Poles must retain his draft picks to keep building. Which is hilarious that suddenly now Ryan Poles is like, bro, we need draft picks. You haven't drafted a player in your entire time here in Green Bay. In Chicago, excuse me. You've done nothing but trade away all your picks to go get players. And now suddenly, when the greatest player to become available since Khalil Mack, probably slightly better than what you had in Khalil, but let's just say about the same, suddenly we have to be very responsible. Suddenly, I really like draft picks. There's more levels to just grabbing the talent and bringing it in. There's some impact things that happen in your locker room and on the field and on your salary cap that, yeah, he could give you a little burst of energy, but long term, does it make sense for you, or is it going to be a derailer down the road when you're trying to sustain? This is a comment that was said by Ryan Poles in 2022, by the way, not necessarily directly tied to this. But again, hilarious because he hasn't done this at all. In what way is signing a bunch of old guys on the offensive line and bad players how you sustain the future? Windy City Gridiron. No, this doesn't guarantee the Packers a Super Bowl. Nobody said it did, dummy. Here's that Windy City Gridiron article. Micah Parsons shockingly traded to the Packers. Bill Zimmerman. What in the world just happened? I was going to write this up as an objective news piece, but I'm unable to do so. This sucks. There's no way to spin it. You can say they don't have a first-round pick the next 2 years. You can say Kenny Clark is gone. That's some serious cope. There's no way to spin this in a positive direction for the Chicago Bears. No, it doesn't guarantee the Packers a Super Bowl championship, just like it didn't guarantee the Bears anything for Khalil Mack, but we saw what Mack did for the Bears in the 2018 season. Parsons could and should have that kind of impact for the Packers defense this season. This obviously isn't cope, but I appreciate that this person is so emotional they can't, sometimes you can't put out these sort of cope type of things because you're just so upset. You're like, screw it, I'm too angry to pretend that I'm not angry. Looking at the comments, anyone trying to spin this as somehow good news for the Bears is delusional, but that's the nature of fandom. The comment below that says, Bears sucked with Mac, so the Packers also have to suck with Parsons. Seems to be the preferred coping mechanism. This would be a good... By the way, there's a lot of things that we can be saving as receipts for later. One of the main ones is going to be these types of comments. This would be a great move if the Packers had to do it at quarterback, but Love has shown he isn't that guy. There's a lot of that going on right now. And if Jordan Love can get back to what he was in 23, there's going to be a lot of receipts getting thrown around. I can promise you that. By the way, before we get out of here, can I just hone in on the one thing we talked about a second ago? Don't know if it's entirely accurate or what, but if the first defining feature of the Ben Johnson era before this even gets kicked off is he's the one that vetoed getting Micah Parsons, you had better believe I'm going to throw that in Bears fans' faces over and over and over and over and over again until they just hate that guy. But look, the bottom line, and this was supposed to be the case for all the teams in the division, the bottom line is this. Prior to, everybody wanted him. Lions fans would have loved to pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. Vikings fans would, of course, love to have him. Bears fans would have loved to have him. But now that the trade is done, suddenly, the Packers are screwed. The Packers aren't good enough. The Packers, they're a mid-team, despite the fact that they're in the playoffs every single year. This is the most hilarious narrative that it's as if they're like the 6-7 win team every year that went and got Micah Parsons. Okay, everybody wanted him. Now suddenly nobody wants him. Oh, his back... Let's end with the back injury real quick. Pretending that the Packers didn't know about this and it's more serious than they thought is ridiculous. Why, if you believe that, can I ask you why you believe that? Why do you believe that? You think they just checked out his back like 5 seconds ago, and then immediately after agreeing to it, they just discovered something new happened? Let's be very clear about this timeline. Everybody knew he had a back injury. That was widely reported. So that wasn't hidden. So the only question is there something more serious? That's exactly what the physical was about. Well, we've since learned all these new things. Yes, we did. We since learned them. And the majority of what we learned is a thing along the lines of the Packers are going to be doing X, Y, and Z because this is the problem that he has. Why do you think the Packers didn't know that? We're just learning what the treatment is. And the treatment is being given based on what they learned the problem was. They know full well what the issue was when they decided to trade for him. What are you talking about? By the way, this is being spun completely out of control. Bears fans and some other people are talking about this is serious. Packers got fleeced. This is going to be a recurring all year thing. He's going to need surgery for this, all kinds of stuff. Here is, let me make sure I got this set up right. Yeah, I do. Here's Ian Rappaport talking about this.
A real back injury is the actual news here because we spent most of the summer talking about Micah Parsons dealing with back tightness, and usually, even on this show and some other shows as well, we would say back tightness to explain his hold. And obviously, Parsons wanted the blockbuster contract from the Dallas Cowboys that he ended up getting with the Green Bay Packers. But it was not a fake injury. He did pass his physical with the Packers, but it is a real injury. Let me explain what Micah Parsons was dealing with this summer and what he is dealing with. My understanding, it is a facet joint sprain in his back affecting the L4 and the L5. Basically, it is a back sprain. That is why he was dealing with some tightness over the course of the summer. That's why he saw Dr. Robert Watkins, one of the experts in back for the NFL. It is why he is expected to be, at least when he was out there today, not a full participant. As far as the treatment, there are several options here, taking an oral steroid or an injectable steroid. Both of those are options. Eventually, an epidural could be an option as well. Here's my understanding. Micah Parsons expected to play this week. That is a good thing. Had he been with the Cowboys and had they not paid him and showed the commitment the Packers would have shown, would he have played in week one? I have my serious doubts. It is something we don't have to discuss now, but certainly it is an issue.
Okay, so there's sort of an explanation as best as is understood, being reported, not being panicked about. This is an injury. He's expected to play week one. Doesn't mean he will, but he is expected to as of right now. And the treatment, temporarily, will be injections to help him get through the pain while his back heals. So, the L4, L5 facet joint sprain What that means, as far as I understand it, is that the small stabilizing joints in the lower spine are strained. Not a spinal disc issue. These are stabilizing joints. I had AI try to dumb this down for me a little bit. It says, think of this like a rolled ankle, painful and uncomfortable, but not structurally unstable. It's treatable with time and caution. By the way, and I'm not going to pretend, you are not starting my PC. You do this all the time. Yeah, next century, thank you. I'm not going to pretend that my rolled ankles are anything like what Micah Parsons goes through, but you understand what happens when you roll your ankle. It hurts really bad. And then you walk around with a limp, you get up, you put as much weight on it as you can, which isn't very much, you limp around in a circle saying a bunch of expletives, and you keep walking and walking and walking until eventually it starts to feel better. Sometimes it feels better as in just well enough that you can put pressure on it and walk with a limp, and then you limp for a couple days, but it goes away. You don't roll your ankle and think, holy crap, I'm done walking forever and I'm going to need surgery, possible amputation. The only thing really to consider is, in order for them to allow him to recover, there may be a possibility, very unlikely that they sit him, especially considering it's the Lions week 1. This may be a load management thing, meaning as much as we want him out there every single snap of every single play, he may be outsnapped by Rashawn Gary. I asked for a little bit of an injury timeline. Acute phase, week 0 through 1. Symptoms: sharp, localized back pain, worse with extension, which is arching your back, limited flexibility. To take care of it, rest, anti-inflammatories, physical therapy, possible corticosteroid injections if swelling or pain lingers. Often missed practice or practice in limited fashion, rarely plays full snaps this early. Subacute phase, weeks 1 through 3. Pain usually subsides significantly, core and mobility work begin. Can return to limited or situational practice reps, might be eased in with snap counts on game day. There is a high re-injury risk if ramped up too quickly. Overextension and pass rush is especially dangerous. Many players are game time decisions in this window. Some play with injections or heavy bracing. Recovery phase, weeks 3 through 6. Most players with mild sprains are cleared to return fully by weeks 3 and 4 if no complications. Focus on regaining explosive first step and power moves. Re-injury risk lowers significantly with proper rehab, but flare-ups remain possible. By weeks 4 through 6, most are fully back unless complications arise. Beyond week 6, it just says, if poorly managed, it can become a chronic back issue, especially in players who rely on explosive bending and twisting. Long-term risk: arthritic changes in the facet joints, stiffness, and recurring pain. Some players deal with this as a nagging season-long injury if they rush recovery or take repeated hits, which is what I've been saying for a while now, is my only real concern. Don't rush him back. Some NFL history comparisons. Von Miller in 2013 for the Broncos had a lumbar sprain in training camp. He missed 2 weeks of preseason, returned by week 1. J.J. Watt in 2016, described as a facet joint injury, later revealed as a more severe disc-related issue, required surgery and missed 13 games. So I suppose you could say that could be a problem if later it's discovered to be something worse, which I don't know how something like that happens, but there's that. Another one worth mentioning, Clay Matthews in 2014, back tightness, facet irritation late in the year, limited snaps for 2 weeks, then full go. And so if we look at the timeline, it's hard to know exactly when it started, but he missed the entire offseason with back tightness. Now, he probably was going to want to miss the season, the offseason anyways, but the fact of the matter is, unless they just got really lucky and pretended he had a back injury and then suddenly got a back injury doing nothing, presumably this exact issue was actually an issue since the start. So if we count backward from today, which for me is September 2nd, the injury onset is early to mid-August, meaning he should be around week 4. We don't know exactly, or I don't know exactly when this started, but presumably he's in and around week 4, which, you know, the timeline for that is fantastic, because remember, the recovery phase, this is when most players with mild sprains are cleared to return fully, which he seems to be, right? There's videos of him hitting a sled, which causes full back arching and extension and all that kind of stuff, which is exactly the kind of stuff that hurts when you have this. So he is full return. So he's in that final phase, weeks 3 through 6. So the point is, and this is what they're talking about with possible injections, possible even epidural, is very simply, we're going to practice and see how you're feeling on Sunday. If your back is hurting, we'll give you some injections. The hope, though, is that whatever discomfort there is extremely mild and hopefully, ideally, non-existent. But that's where we're at. That's as much as we know. This doom and gloom panic is coming from literally nowhere. That is to say, there's no information as of today that would cause anybody to think outside of everything I just said. It is and only is the things that I said that it is up to this point. Could it be something else? Sure. Just like he could frickin' tear his ACL. Like anything could happen. As of right now, he is in the final stages of recovery for a mild back injury. All right? Okay. Let's get out of here. You all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the podcast. Time to break it down. Packing nets in session. Best show in this town. Ryan Schlipp on the mic, got the data and facts. Pre-trade sentiment had the Bears wanting to act. Eric Edsel wrote about Parsons, landing spots. Bears fans in the comments saying make it happen, why not? Dave B. fought tweeting Bears should make the trade. All the fans agreeing plans were being made. We need pass rush, Bradley defense looking weak. Then the Packers swooped in, got the player they seek. Now they switching up the story saying we didn't want him. Post-trade sentiment showing their true colors dim. Cap space, age concern, suddenly they're smart. But before the trade went down, they wanted him from the start. 26 years old, entering his prime. 7 solid seasons, that's value over time. Bears fans talking cap hell, but let's check the math. 1.6 million left, that's a broken path. 7 guys over 10 mil, that's financial strain. While the Packers got 5, keeping money in the game. Paying back up tight ends, guards that can't block. Meanwhile, Green Bay's building with championship stock. Now they switching up the story saying we didn't want him. Post-trade sentiment showing their true colors dim. Cap space, age concern, suddenly they're smart. But before the trade went down, they wanted him from the start. Back injury talk, trying to spread the doubt. Physical was passed, what's that all about? L4, L5, facet joint, it's a minor sprain. Like a rolled ankle, healing manageable pain. Weeks 3 through 6, that's the timeline clear. Recovery phase active, he'll be ready this year. Bears media spinning while their defense stays weak. Parsons in green and gold, that's the peak we seek. Not a player away, that's a cope they choose. But every team's got holes, that's nothing new. Process over results, that's how you build right. Parsons makes us better, brings that championship fight. Kenny Clark from Micah now, that's a smart trade. Young pass rush monster for a guy who skills fade. Future's looking bright with love on the center while the Bears keep struggling, can't find their answer. Packernet podcast, keeping real, talk alive, analyzing every move, watching Green Bay thrive. Trade deadline winners got a franchise guy, time to prove the doubters wrong, reaching for the sky. Hat them up podcast. Packernets in session. Best show in this town.